Welcome, everybody, to the FantasyLifeNetwork.com podcast. I'm here with Mark Glasseter and Anthony Heald. I'm David Gerhardt. Today, we're going to be going over our rankings for the top 10 fantasy quarterbacks of 2018. Who made it, who didn't. Some will surprise you, some probably not. We're going to start off at number 10. How we doing today, guys?
I'm good.
I'm doing good. Lovely.
Fantastic. Thanks for the descriptive answers there.
Actually, I will say this. I was at a Colombian party last night, and it was pretty much off the chain. Can I say that? Is that what the kids are saying nowadays?
I don't think anybody says that.
Okay.
Colombian Independence was yesterday, so happy Independence to all the Colombian listeners out there. Mark partook in that down in Miami, and apparently it was
off the chain.
Fun. It was, I won't say that, but glad you had fun last night.
That's great.
All right, so let's start with number 10 on our list. Now, just to let everybody know, these projections on stats, we meticulously go through all the data available of past stats, strength of schedule, coaching changes, what they're able to do with the receivers and tight ends that they have. So we have a pretty detailed algorithm that goes into all these projections. So this isn't just us guessing. We're not taking cumulative projections from other sites. These are original stats, and we're going to put them up against everybody else out there via our FLN score on our website, FantasyLifeNetwork.com. That way you can check us out and find out how accurate we are compared to everybody else. That way you guys make sure you're getting the correct data and the most accurate information available to you.
That's really what it's all about, to help you win your leagues.
All right, so we're going to start off at number 10. At number 10, we have Kirk Cousins. Now, I like Cousins going to Minnesota. I think that what he was able to do in Washington, he's got a better offensive line in Minnesota. He has better receivers in Minnesota. I think he's got a better offensive coordinator in Minnesota. I think Minnesota's just overall better team. I think they're gonna be in contention for the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah,
as they should have been last year.
I was gonna say that's what's the X factor here is that they have a chance.
Yeah.
Before, like he was in Washington, I mean, fine, every team has a chance, but like, Minnesota this year is a legit contender.
Well,
like that's an X factor. That's the extra motivation drive right there.
The other thing too that he now has is a better defense, so they're going to give him the ball a lot more. You know what I mean?
He's going to have more time, under center, definitely.
Agreed. I mean, also the running back situation in Minnesota is significantly better than what it was in Washington.
If you got Cook playing all 16 games, that's going to make things a lot easier on their quarterback as far as getting the ball downfield and opening up that middle ground for Kyle Rudolph, who has been a phenomenal tight end over the years. I wouldn't say phenomenal. He's never been the number one tight end.
But you just said phenomenal.
Right. He's been consistent. He's consistent. He's been good when he's healthy.
He's consistent. And
he's consistent for sure.
He's going to be a good pass catcher for Cousins this coming up year.
Well, definitely Cousins is going to increase his value.
Yeah, he likes his tight ends.
For sure.
I can see Cousins getting similar to yardage to what he's had the last couple of years, like 4,000 plus. But I can see his touchdown ratio going up. I can see him having more touchdowns than he's had in the last 2 or 3 years. So he's averaged around about 26, 27 touchdowns per year. I bet you he can get into the 30s this year.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, they're going to play for the run more because he's got a dependable running back. Well, I mean, if he stays healthy, obviously, but that's going to open things up for Cousins. And you're saying, he's got better wide receivers, and they're going to make the catches that those other people in Washington weren't catching,
Right.
And what you're talking about with Rudolph, he doesn't get injured like Reed does. So, you have a more stable tight end as well who's going to get catches. And, yeah, I could see him increasing his touchdowns for sure.
We right now, we have him projected at 27 touchdowns, which is a conservative figure.
Yeah, but just like Anthony said, I mean, that's his normal,
Right. Now, Dalvin Cook, he's not a power back, but he's definitely going to have his work cut out for him in the red zone, on those outside rushes. But 27, somewhat conservative. I think that's the floor for Kirk Cousins in 2018.
I mean, I think he can very well top the top 5 at the end of the season. It wouldn't surprise me. Like I could see him being the fourth or fifth quarterback in the league.
Now let me just play devil's advocate. The only thing about Cousins and the offense is they do have a new offensive coordinator this year, right? Pat Shurmur, who was the offensive coordinator in Minnesota last year, is now in New York.
Correct.
So he's coming to a new team, and he's got to learn a new system. So I do think there will be a little bit of a slowness to the start, but I definitely think come playoff time, like fantasy playoff time, he's going to be your guy. He's going to get you 20 to 30 points a week, and he's going to help you win your leagues.
Yep, I agree.
Well, listen, here's the bottom line. Kirk Cousins is from Michigan State, and as we all know, they're awesome, right?
Okay, here we go.
I mean,
Here we
let's
go.
look at Le'Veon Bell. The best back.
Okay, let's move on to the next the next candidate.
We're going to do a fantasy bias 15-minute segment here in the middle of the podcast.
All Michigan State players.
All right, just kind of, we're going to pepper in some facts here from last season. So just kind of go along with Kirk Cousins. Jamison Crowder last season was the only wide receiver with 100 or more targets that finished outside the top 30. He finished
crazy.
40th among wide receivers.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So obviously that speaks to Crowder's ability as a wide receiver, but he had over 100 targets. So put Cousins on a team where he's got receivers that can catch the ball, that can produce. Things are looking out for his stats.
I mean, yeah, he's got two fantastic receivers, and he's also got that the pass catching back in Cook, who's going to be amazing this season.
Right. All right, so number 9, Matthew Stafford.
Good old faithful right there, man.
Yeah, I mean, he is, in my mind, he's a very middle of the road quarterback, but he comes into our top 10 because of the likelihood that he repeats the stat line with Golden Tate and Marvin Jones. And then you also Galladay, who is hopefully going to be healthy through 16 games, big, tall guy, definitely be working hard in the red zone. We've got him projected for 372 completions, little under 4,400 yards, and 27 touchdowns.
The key for me with Detroit is they don't have a running game. I know that they went out and they got a running back in the draft. They went and got LeGarrette Blount. For me, though, they've just, ever since Stafford's been in Detroit, they're a passing team.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Stafford is like the new Brett Favre. He's just a gunslinger.
Right.
That's all he's going to be that way. Like, even if they get a running game, they're just going to throw the ball because that's what he does. He's just a gunslinger. He's going to take those hits. He's going to throw those couple interceptions, but he's going to make those badass plays. Like, he's just the new Favre. That's how I see it.
And
He's just not as good as Favre.
Right, definitely not as good. But just like Cousins, his wide receivers are good. They're solid. Marvin Jones Jr. is a solid wide receiver, and so is Golden Tate.
Yeah.
They're just solid receivers. So, they've got proven skills to catch the ball. And that's the thing about Stafford and Detroit. The only thing that I'm unsure about is obviously the coaching change.
Yeah.
And I know the philosophy is they want to run the ball more.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
They bring it up in the draft. They bring it up when they're, Detroit hasn't had a running back over 100 yards in a game since, who was it, Bush in like 2010 or 2012?
Yep.
Yeah.
So everybody's talking about it. So it's like they want to run the ball.
I really liked your stance on that, Mark, a couple seasons ago in the redraft leagues where you would target Matthew Stafford as your late round draft gem
Always.
pickup.
Sure.
So if you look at his stats, he hasn't thrown less than 4,200 yards in the last 7 seasons. And he's consistently been in the 20s as far as touchdowns. I mean, he's peaked a couple times and gotten to the 30s. But, what do we have him as far as the draft position? He's probably going between 8th and 10th round somewhere.
Yeah, I believe it's like 10th round.
I mean, that's a steal at that point,
Sure, for your first quarterback. Because then you get all these other players, wide receivers, running backs, that is going to make a big difference for you. He's definitely a good pickup later on, and he definitely gets overlooked. And having a consistent quarterback like that in your lineup to get you 20 to 30 points a week is what you need.
Yeah, I mean, don't be scared to draft him. If he's there in the 10th round or 11th round and you don't have a quarterback yet, and there's nobody else, like, that's a great pickup for around that time.
I think people overlook him because he looks like a baby. Matthew Stafford looks like a toddler in a helmet.
Yeah, he's
And
30 years old.
I feel like he doesn't have the chin of a leader.
I don't know. Did you see that? I think that was a play from last season where he broke he dislocated his shoulder
And
he ran back out in the field one play later and threw a touchdown.
he went back to the sideline. His mom kissed it, and he came back out.
Yeah,
Was
but
that
he
his
threw a touchdown.
Yeah, no,
I
I'm
mean,
not- listen, I'm not-
babyface can throw.
I'm not saying he's not good. I like Matthew Stafford. We put him in our top 10. I'm saying he doesn't have the chin of a leader.
Okay. Okay.
I'm saying he looks like a toddler, and I feel like a lot of people see that and they say, I don't want that guy leading my team. You know,
All right.
I want that chiseled jaw of a Brett Favre.
Like,
you
or
know,
Jimmy G or something like
yeah.
that.
Look
you
at
know?
that jawline.
Your
So you're
man
basically
crush on him
saying
is
you
ridiculous.
want a sexier quarterback.
I want a sexier quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, yeah. I absolutely. I want to put my faith in somebody that's easy on the eyes.
All right. I can understand your point of view.
This is turned into a totally different podcast. Totally different.
I'm just saying what everybody else is thinking.
All right.
All right, we're going to go to number 8, Ben Roethlisberger. I like him in the top 10 this season. Juju Smith-Schuster is on the rise. He killed it last season, but I think he's going to do better this season. Antonio Brown, obviously, no-brainer for top 3 wide receiver in 2018.
Oh, for sure.
He's got weapons. Bell can catch the ball. You know, he's proven that.
And you know what's funny? He does it without tight end help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Their
Yeah.
tight ends are always really down there in fantasy. And
He hasn't had a tight end in Pittsburgh in like 5 years.
right.
Who was this last? It was like Todd Heap or something like that. Who was that tight end that they had like 5 years ago? Who was decent? They actually had like a fantasy relevant tight end, but like it hasn't existed in like several years now.
Right, and he hasn't needed it.
But I mean, I had to say with the emergence of Juju last season, him and Brown, that's pretty potent right there. Like that's a pretty impressive combination right there.
Right. And then you've got Bell out of the backfield, who can obviously is your third wide receiver.
Well,
you know?
I mean that's pending Bell's not a giant pussy and signs his fucking tender.
Yeah, he definitely needs to sign it, but he wants to get paid.
Yeah, I mean I understand that, but you gotta pay to play. You know,
Yeah, and I think the good thing
you
about
gotta play to get paid.
the reason that I think Roethlisberger is definitely going to be in the top 10 this year is their offense coordinator changed from Todd Haley to the wide receiver coach, but the wide receiver coach has been there since Antonio Brown's rookie season. So the guy knows the system still, and there's not going to be much of a variance.
And they picked up James Washington in the draft this year, so another offensive weapon they're looking to develop. They got Darius Hayward-Bay still on the roster. They obviously got rid of Martavis Bryant. He's gone, but between Brown, Schuster, and Bell, and then we'll see if James Washington actually emerges in preseason and see if he can actually hold his own on the field. But that's a really good receiving core.
Yeah.
Guys that can put up numbers. His tight ends this year, Vance McDonald and Jesse James. So obviously not a whole lot of fantasy relevance there. Not a whole lot of help for Roethlisberger, but he seems to make it work with what he's got. So
Yeah, and I think Vance McDonald, they got in a trade last year, like mid-season, so the guy didn't really have a chance to work with the team that much. They just threw him in there.
And what do we got? Roethlisberger at, just to fill you guys in, and you can obviously look up all this information at FantasyLifeNetwork.com under redraft leagues and 2018 projections standard. We got it broken down by position here. But we got Ben Roethlisberger, 376 completions for a little over 4,500 yards and 28 touchdowns.
So that's what you want. You want a consistent quarterback that gets you at least 20 points a game. That's the goal. When you measure up your fantasy team, you want your running backs to get at least 10 points. You want your wide receivers to get you 10 points. And if you add all that stuff up with a quarterback like that, you have a chance to win every week.
I totally agree. I'm actually severely disappointed when my quarterback doesn't get me at least 20 points.
Right.
It's a bust. He threw the game if he didn't get at least 20 points.
Right. Like there was that game that Luck got at 0 in Dallas. Remember that? It was Andrew Luck.
That was a brutal game.
Brutal.
Brutal game. Lost so many people their championships.
I know. It's crazy.
But I mean, as far as all other players, you're right though. You want all your other players to get at least double digits.
Oh, at least.
I feel like you just steamed over that Luck situation.
Oh, really? Sorry.
He threw a few yards, then he threw 2 interceptions, then they pulled him from the game.
Right.
To save him for the playoffs. So, yes, in fantasy playoffs, it was terrible because, of course, a lot of people started him. They got 0 points. But that's a roll of the day. So,
Yeah, the point being that you want a quarterback who's consistent. And Ben Roethlisberger is going to get you those 20 points. The thing is, he's going to get you 35 points one week, and sometimes he'll get you like 15.
Yeah,
Just
but-
because he'll have those odd games where Bell will score, a lot of running touchdowns in the game, and he might just throw 1 touchdown to Antonio Brown, but he'll still get you 350 yards passing.
You're right, and he'll also play in a walking boot too.
Oh, absolutely.
The guy's a tank. He's going to play regardless.
And,
you can
yeah.
count on him.
And that is the other dependability factor. He's going to start. So picking him up on the draft late, you probably get him around the same time as Stafford, 8 through 10, maybe even later. So you can get a number 1 quarterback and fill your team with other positions, other needs, depth, and things like that.
Now, let me ask you both this question. At what point, what's the earliest you're willing to take a quarterback in your redraft league?
Ooh, it depends.
round?
It depends what happens in the draft.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't understand that it's all situational.
It's totally
Understand
situational,
it's all
but I
situational.
probably wouldn't touch.
Ideally.
I wouldn't touch a quarterback no earlier than the 4th or 5th round. No earlier, and that would have to be for the top.
That's early, though. 4th round,
But that would have to be. But that's totally situational. What happened?
right. But ideal. Like, obviously, things happen. Everybody goes running back.
Well, then
first round.
I'm taking somebody in the 8th, or 9th, 10th round.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my line of line of demarcation is 10th round and later.
I mean, honestly, if all the top tier talent is already gone, top 6 quarterbacks are already gone, I might even go later than that.
Sure.
Because I don't think the spread from 6 to 15 is that big.
Right now, we have the point difference between our number 10 quarterback and our number 1 quarterback is 50 points. So on a 16 game season, that's not enough to reach for a QB in the 3rd round, 2nd round. And again, listen to our mock drafts. They're coming off in the 2nd round. Aaron Rodgers is going in the 2nd round.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough.
You
though.
know?
Like Aaron Rodgers, like if he's there in the 4th round, that's tough. It depends on where I'm at in the draft. It depends what's happened already in the draft. Depends how far away I have to wait until the next pick. It's so situational, but
Yeah, and that's why we do mock drafts, because you have to get a feel for when everybody's coming off the board and what you would do in certain situations. So if you get to the 4th round, you're the 8th pick in the 4th round, and Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz and Russell Wilson are off the board, you got to know, okay, do I reach for a quarterback this early, or do I say, no, I'm going to go Matthew Stafford because I know he'll be there 2 rounds later.
yep.
That's why we mock draft. All right, moving up the list, number 7, Deshaun Watson.
This guy's going to blow it up next year. He's going to be
He's
the
going to
red
blow
zone.
up or he's going to blow it up?
He's going to blow it up.
He's a terrorist?
He's going to be the red zone player of the week. He's going to be the red zone MVP of the year. We're going to see so many good highlights from this guy. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to watch him.
So here's my only take on Watson. I agree with you. He looked amazing. That play last year where somebody's hanging on him and he still threw like a 60-yard bomb to Fuller in the end zone was amazing. He's definitely very talented. Can he hold up? Can he actually play 16 games? Will he be in your fantasy playoffs?
That's the big question.
You
He played 7 games last season. For me, this is the hype that he's getting in this offseason.
It's huge.
Where he's going in these mock drafts, where other people have him ranked in the quarterback. We actually put him low. There are sites out there that have him in the top 3, that have him 2 under Rodgers. They have Rodgers, Watson, Wilson, to have him that high. He played 7 games. I know he looked good. 204 attempts for 1,700 yards and 19 touchdowns in 7 games. That's a great stat line.
Yeah.
But I don't care if he does that in 7 games and then doesn't play the rest of the season. That doesn't help anybody.
Yep. The stat that I really like there is 19 touchdowns in 7 games.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
That's what some quarterbacks throw all season.
all season, absolutely.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
but the question is he able to keep up that workload without getting injured?
Well, we don't know.
Right,
Obviously,
that's the big question. We don't know.
Yeah, but honestly, it's a bit tainted because obviously he blew out the leg in his first season.
Right.
If he just would have had a fantastic season in his first season, are we having the same conversation right now?
Not at all. He's
No.
number 1 on our board.
Right. So but ACLs are just those are freak things. We don't say Tom Brady had an ACL back in 2008, and we don't say, can he hold up for a whole season?
Right. But you see the difference between him and Roethlisberger, right? That is the difference. They're really good quarterbacks, but Roethlisberger will be there.
Yeah, Roethlisberger's got like 100 pounds, and Deshaun Watson.
Right. But he's
No
still...
offense, Ben.
But you have to go off of what you've seen, and all we've seen is 7 games. And they were incredible games.
All
And
right.
listen, we got him in our top 10.
Yeah.
We think he's going to do well.
Sure. I caution people on reaching for him in the draft.
Yeah, I'm not picking him up in the 3rd round. Like,
That's right.
if Rodgers or Brady, if somebody else is there, like I'm definitely picking them up over Watson. But if Watson's available and some other good quarterback's gone and he's there in the 5th, 6th round, I might pick him up. I probably will pick him up.
And the thing about Watson is Lamar Miller, they don't have a running game. That's the point. So he's going to have to throw the ball. He's got a great number 1 wide receiver, so that they're going to be dependable. Fuller is decent, but he gets injured a lot. They don't have a running game, so it's going to be on him to win these games. So he's going to be tossing, You know,
I know we're not
350
talking
yards,
I know,
2 touchdowns.
I know we're not talking about running backs today, but you don't like Dante Foreman?
No, I think it's going to be Larry Miller.
Sure. Just a couple stats to go along with Deshaun Watson. By the way, nobody knows who Larry Miller is. You made a joke that
The
aged
comedian?
yourself.
The comedian from the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this: if you're gonna pick up Lamar Miller, don't fucking draft him in a PPR league, because that's what I did last year and he killed me.
Oh,
Right.
sure.
Just give a couple facts from last season. Going along with Sean Watson, Will Fuller averaged 1.7 fantasy points per target in 2017,
Which is huge.
that's the 5th highest number over the last 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's huge. He just, he can't stay healthy either. So that's his
Right.
knock on that guy. But, I mean, yeah, dependability.
Right.
Catching a long ball that Deshaun Watson can obviously put on a dime for 50 yards away
Right.
is key. And if he can have those guys healthy, they got to throw the ball. So, he can be a solid player. Just my thing is don't draft him too early and pick up a decent number 2 quarterback.
Fact number 2, DeAndre Hopkins led the NFL with 13 receiving touchdowns, which was great, but that was the lowest number for a league leader since 2009.
What was a weird year? It
Yeah.
was really a weird year.
All right.
So yeah, we're feeling good with Sean Watson at number 7. Again, a lot of people had him higher, but we're more realists here at Fantasy Life Podcast, and
Definitely.
got him at 7.
Well, I think we're gonna shock the rest of the audience right now with the 6th pick. Right
I do
here.
too. 'Cause this is a guy that's usually going top 3, if not top 2, and rightfully so, because he is the GOAT, Mr. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like people think that he'll get insulted if they put him lower than outside the top 5.
Yeah.
He's proven to be a top 5 finisher through and through, but this year you got no Amendola, you've got Edelman on a 4-game suspension, you got Cooks in LA. I mean, he's got Chris Hogan as his number 1 receiver, who Chris Hogan is not to be slept on, but he's never proven that he can be.
I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
He's got nothing.
Right.
I mean, he's got nothing.
Now-
He's got Gronk, who's going to get double covered.
Yeah.
If anybody can make something out of nothing, it's Tom Brady and Belichick.
I agree.
Oh,
They've done it year after year. But they got a new running back in the draft.
Right.
So are they going to utilize that more? Tom Brady's getting older. I know he's looking for another ring. He's hunting for that next Super Bowl appearance, but there's got to come a time where he starts to slow down.
Yeah, for me, the biggest key for Tom Brady this year is will his offensive line hold up? They lost Soldier to New York. You got to have a great tackle, and their tackle's now gone. So they got to plug in somebody new. And they didn't look great last year. I know they kind of came together at the end of the year, but can the offensive line protect him?
Now, last year he led the NFL with 4,577 yards. To note on that, he was the lowest league leader since 2006.
Oh, wow.
So, you look at him and you go, well, he was number 1 in passing yards last season. Well, it was, again, kind of an off year for quarterbacks because it was the lowest league leader in over 10 years.
What that's telling me when you're giving me these stats on wide receivers and quarterbacks is that getting a good, solid quarterback is very important. If that trend continues where running backs are the biggest factors, having a really good, solid quarterback that'll get you 20 to 30 points, having a wide receiver that will get you 10 to 15 points is key in these drafts, because if that's the case, that's the lowest yards and lowest touchdowns for these guys. I mean, you got to find your value in some other thing. Which,
Right.
At this point, you've got to look at these rankings and go, okay, who am I going to pick and where in the draft I'm going to pick them.
Right. And
Here's an impressive stat for Tom Brady. The last 2 years, he's thrown 60 touchdowns and only 10 interceptions.
no, yeah, he's
He
super
threw,
accurate.
He threw 8 interceptions last season, which is incredible.
I
He
know,
threw
it's crazy.
2 the year before. 2.
I know.
And just a note, running back situation, they've got Sonny Michael, Rex Burkhead, James White, Mike Gillislee,
so many
Jeremy
running
Hill.
backs.
They've got 5 running backs right now who are all, they're going to use all of them.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to use all of them.
You know they're going to use all of them. You just don't know which one.
Yeah,
Right.
and then
So don't draft any of them.
wide receiver, you've got Hogan, Edelman, Jordan Matthews, and Malcolm Mitchell. Now, Chris Hogan, obviously number 1 on the depth chart. When Julian Edelman comes back from suspension, he's going to be the go-to. He's
Yeah.
going to those 10-yard passes that he loves throwing to Edelman. where he just catches the ball and goes down immediately. That's going to happen. But again, he's on a 4-game suspension. That's going to hurt Brady's
That hurts.
stats.
I can see the running game going bananas the first 4 weeks.
And of course, Gronkowski and Dwayne Allen tight ends this year. Gronkowski,
He's a machine.
he's a machine.
Yeah.
He's always going to be there for Brady. But again, I don't think it's enough this season to put him in
You're right.
the top 5.
Yeah, but you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. Like, Belichick is kind of sneaky. It wouldn't surprise me them just picking up someone else's trash or making a
Might
trade,
happen.
mid preseason and just getting like a number 2, number 1 receiver from somebody and it being enough.
Or maybe one of the guys on the bench now will step up. Like Mitchell. Or,
But the fact that they got rid of Cooks and Amendola and
But that's what they do.
Didn't really- I know.
They get rid of anybody and they just keep on,
Yep.
keep on. Because the key for him is their offense coordinator is still there. He almost left to go to Indy.
The thing about New England is they've never given us a reason to believe that they can't do it with nothing.
right.
And they always do it. So we
They've
have
been
to
doing it for
assume
so long.
that they're going to do it. We're just predicting that he'll finish 6 out of.
Yeah, it's just there's 5 other quarterbacks
But
that are
he's
just going to do better.
still going to be fantastic. I'm
Yeah,
still
for
going to
sure.
watch as many games as I can
For sure.
because I'd love to hate him.
Now to argue the counterpoint of him being number 6, Tom Brady has played a full 16-game season 14 times in his career. Out of his 18-season career, so 18 seasons, he's played 14 seasons, full season. Sorry for the jumbling that up a little bit. Of those 14 full seasons, half of them were top 5 finishes, and 72% were top 10 finishes.
For sure.
So again, that's fantastic stat line for a career of a quarterback. But when does he start slowing down? When does he start dropping a little bit? We're ending that we have to be ending that nearing the end of his career. And
You know what? I think he needs to pick it up. Like, I think he needs to speed up a little bit. If you look last year, he only had 28 rushing yards. 7 yards was his longest run. I'd like to see him run a couple 15 yards.
have
just-
you
he's
ever
not that-
actually seen him run?
Right, he's not
I
that
have.
type of quarterback.
It's terrible.
though.
He's the
But
worst.
I want to see. I'd like to just see him burst up the middle with carrying the ball and just score on a 20-yard run.
He's just not that guy, He's just not that Deshaun Watson. He's not Russell Wilson. He's not going to be
You never
scrambling
know
all
with
over
the
place.
receiving situation. It could be something that they have planned this season.
Listen, Fantasy Life Network should put some R&D money into building him an exoskeleton. That's something he can wear under his
Sure.
pants.
Some special shoes or
something
something.
to help him move, because he runs like somebody who has never run before.
Right,
He runs like he's just learning how to run.
He runs like he's constipated.
right.
Yeah.
But he makes up for it in touchdowns and yards.
Yeah.
So,
So
there you go.
So of course I'd like to see Brady run more because I like laughing while I'm watching football. But
I enjoy having a
it's
good
not
time.
going to be good for their offense.
All right, so yeah, Tom Brady 6th.
All right, moving one spot up to number 5. The big question mark in 2018, Mr. Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I love this one. I love this one because you say question mark and everybody.
Yeah, they're sleeping on him.
Right.
Nobody knows what this guy's going to do. And the question mark comes from last season. He was medically cleared to play last season. He did not. Pagano said to the press, at this point, it's all in his head. He's totally medically cleared to play. Didn't really have his back. Obviously, he wanted him back on the field. Kind of threw him under the bus a little bit. But they made a reach out of New England last year. Thought that'd be the answer. Didn't really turn out to be the answer. So I think Andrew Luck looked at his situation, looked at his contract, and said, you know what? We're not making the playoffs this season. I'm going to sit this one out. I really do.
I hope
I could be way off on
I
that,
hope
but
not.
I really do feel like he wasn't 100%. Yes, some of it was in his head. He was medically cleared to play, but that doesn't mean he felt 100%. And I think he took the rest of the season off to rehab, to get his head right. I think he's going to come back in 2018 and pick up where he left off.
Well, that's where we have him ranked. We have him ranked based on
Right, where he left
him
off.
picking up
Right.
where he left off.
Look, if he comes back as the old Andrew Luck, he's going to be at least a top 5 quarterback.
Right.
Like,
For sure.
Andrew Luck is a fucking beast. He's definitely my go-gay football player.
Man, you have a lot of quarterbacks.
You know why?
Okay.
He's got a chin of a leader.
He's a scruffy, good-looking man.
Yeah, he's got the chin of a leader, though.
And he likes getting hit. You see the highlight reel of him getting hit, and he's just like, good hit.
Yeah.
And
He's
I-
hilarious.
Yeah, he is a, this is going to sound weird, but he's the football player's football player.
Oh, for
like
sure.
He's that all-American, not afraid to get his hands dirty. He'll run the ball.
Oh, yeah, he will.
Slapping asses and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
he'll take off running. He doesn't mind getting hit, and if he stays healthy, and the true test is going to be preseason. They're gonna play him all preseason.
You think?
Absolutely. They've already made it. They've already.
I don't think so.
They've already made that statement.
I bet you he plays one series every game, and
Every
just,
No,
everybody
he'll
does.
he'll play the first half of
and,
every game.
and he'll do
Right.
he'll do like West Coast office, just little 5 to 10 yard passes. Nothing. He won't throw any bombs. I bet you they'll have him reeled in.
I don't think so. I think they're going to put him through the ringer, and I think he's going to play the first half of every game in preseason. And I think they're going to put him through the ringer. They've got to sync back up him and T.Y. Hilton. That was a winning combination in 2016, and I really do think that they're gonna press him.
And I think, and I agree with you. They're going to play him a little bit more because of his time off, but also because they have a new quarterback. And I mean, or I'm sorry, a new head coach.
Right.
And he comes from Philadelphia. You saw what he did with Wentz.
Yeah.
And he's got a new system, so he's going to have to, get the
Implementation?
Yes. Of that system with Luck. And like you're saying, he's got to get Hilton on the same page. And with these other wide receivers, which we really don't know, Chester Rogers and Ryan Grant,
Right.
who's going to step up out of those guys. But Luck's so good, he could make them better.
Where are they at with the offensive line situation? Because it's been terrible the last.
It's
few
getting
years.
better.
They definitely drafted well. They drafted a center so that they could add. Their offensive line is just terrible.
It's always been
Now
it's
that I
always.
think about it, I can't even justify it.
The thing was, it was bad when Luck was still doing good.
Right.
He got taken down a lot. He got hurried a lot. He dropped back a lot, but he still made it work. They're making moves to improve the offensive line. It is going to be better than last season, hands down. We can do a full write-up on FantasyLifeNetwork.com about their offensive line because I know that's a big question, with Marlon Mack, where you're going to take him in the draft, Andrew Luck, where you're going to take him, and their offensive line has a lot to do with that. So we'll write something up for you guys, get it posted. That way we can help iron out whether or not you're going to take him this season. A player like Luck is somebody you might actually have to reach for.
Yeah, and here I have Indianapolis ranked dead last on their offensive line. It's just they didn't do enough. You know what I mean? They
But he
drafted well, but they didn't get any free agents that were decent. They, like I said, the only difference right now that I see with Indy is they've got a new head coach.
Right.
That his scheme might help them, take into account these shortcomings of the offensive line being so bad. And, roll him out a little bit more, try and, throw some quick passes to the running back so he's not taking all this abuse that he's normally taking.
Now
Yeah.
he's known for throwing interceptions.
Oh, yeah.
And that's in part because of the shitty offensive line because
Right.
he's hurried up, he's throwing when he's getting hit, he's throwing under pressure, and it causes him to make mistakes. Luckily, he has the volume to make up for that. His passing attempts, where do we have him as far as attempts? 584 attempts, 365 completions. So, they've got the volume to keep up with that. And even under a shitty offensive line, he's going to make his mistakes. He's going to throw his picks, but he's going to connect. And he was able to break the top 10 with that shitty O-line. Again, it's gotten better this year, so that's why we got him at number 5.
I would say what he really needs to is he needs a lot of help from his running backs this year.
Right.
He needs to know he can rely on those and that he's just not being a gunslinger the entire time.
Yeah.
We need Mac. He needs Mac to really just be a solid player for him next year.
Definitely will take a lot of pressure off him if
Yep.
they get the running game going.
Yep.
Because defenses will now have to at least back off a little bit, and that might give him a little bit more time to throw a deeper pass or get him more comfortable. But for sure.
And I like Mac this year.
Yeah, me too.
I think he is going to take pressure off, and I think that he'll come into his own in 2018.
Yeah, and the other thing too that is in Luck's favor is their schedule against defenses that were really bad last year is really good. When you don't do very well, the NFL rewards you with a better schedule this year, and for
Right.
fantasy, that makes a huge difference.
All right, well, let's go to number 4. Cam Newton coming in,
Number 1 in terrible hats.
number 1 in terrible hats.
Cam Newton, man, I've never drafted Cam Newton ever in any league that I've ever been in because if you watch Cam Newton throw the ball, he will put the most beautiful spiral right where it needs to be, and the next pass will be 6 feet above his wide receiver's head. Like I don't understand it. It's he gets a lot of touchdowns, he runs the ball a lot, so that's why he's always up there. But as a throwing quarterback,
Yeah,
Can't.
he's never a person that I reach for. If he's there at a favorable, at a value spot, then I don't mind picking him up.
and what would that be? What would be a valuable spot for Cam Newton?
Again, for me, the draft is so situational. So it depends on who's left on the board and what's already happened and what I currently have.
Yeah. But where would you, with all those things taken into account, where would you try and take him?
6th, 7th round, but I mean, I probably wouldn't even touch them still. I would
Right.
I would rather pick up Cousins.
Yeah, for sure.
I would rather pick up some of the quarterbacks behind me. Like, that's just me though. But it depends. Like, I could say if Newton was there later on, then yeah, I'd pick him up, but he won't be because so many other people are going to pick him up in the
Right.
3rd, 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, but he's ranked high this year. You know, I mean, we have him ranked high because he does get a lot of touchdowns running the ball. I mean, 6. You know, we've got him pegged for 6 rushing touchdowns this year.
Yeah, he had 750 yards rushing last year.
Yeah, I
that's
mean-
that's fantastic.
Right, and that's what makes up for his lack of throwing. You know, his lack of throwing touchdowns and his lack of yards is he'll get you those games, and that's why he's up so high. But as far as a throwing quarterback, I can't. I just can't. I can't root for somebody who's going to do what I just gave you as a scenario. You know,
Yeah.
throwing 6 foot over.
I
you.
mean, let's look at his stats. So he had 3,300 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions.
Right.
Ouch. So
Yeah.
I mean, if he doesn't have those rushing yards, no way is he in the top 10.
No, exactly.
No way.
So if you're willing to, you know, sit through some bad passes and rely on his running, take him.
And just an interesting fact here, he has 54 career rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's 3 more rushing touchdowns than Jonathan Stewart in 3 fewer seasons.
Yeah, I mean.
So his running back the entire time, his entire career, he has performed his running back as far as touchdown goes. Now the good thing about running backs in Carolina this year is Christian McCaffrey is a pass catcher. You know, he's utilized as a pass catcher. He proved last year that he can perform as a pass catcher. You know, C.J. Anderson joins Carolina this year. I think they're going to be doing a bit of a timeshare between McCaffrey and Anderson, but McCaffrey is going to be the pass catcher out of the two of them.
I think that that backfield is going to be just the same as it was with Stewart.
I agree.
Same stats. And the good thing about that'll help Cam Newton's, you know, completion
Sure.
percentage, but
Yeah,
will it help his fantasy relevancy? You know what I mean?
And you lose, you know, he had Benjamin for 8 games last year. You lose Benjamin. You got Funches and Torrey Smith holding down 1 and 2 spots at wide receiver. Torrey Smith, he's getting kind of old, but he's kind of been reliable. Everywhere he's gone, he's been that deep ball guy.
Yeah.
Devin Funches is a big guy. He's a big wide receiver. I think Funches is on the come up as far as stats goes. I think he's going to impress everybody this season. I think he's going to step right into where Kelvin Benjamin left off, and he's going to put up some impressive stats. But you know, Greg Olsen, obviously he's a touchdown magnet.
Yeah.
We love that guy at tight end. We'll see. So either way, puts him in decent rankings with us at number 4. I don't hate that.
Look, if you're drafting and you like him and he makes you feel good and you're in a good position to draft him, pick him up. He's gonna get
Right.
you points.
And
he's gonna get you points.
On top of everything else, great chin.
Oh my god! All right, moving along, David.
Moving along. Let's go to the next.
I love this next pick.
Yeah.
Did you know, by the way, that last season Russell Wilson and Cam Newton both outrushed their running backs?
I didn't. That's pretty crazy. Really?
It's
Yeah.
pretty pathetic, actually.
They both outrushed their running
I
backs.
mean,
Now I
it's
can see
it's
Wilson
impressive,
that.
but it's pathetic at the same time.
That blows my mind.
But you got
having
McCaffrey,
Stewart and
McCaffrey, right?
McCaffrey,
Yeah.
and he still outrushed both of them.
Yep.
That's crazy.
All
Wow.
right, number 3, Carson Wentz.
Yeah, man.
Love this pick.
Dude, he's going to be an exciting player to watch 2018.
He's gonna be the next GOAT. I'm saying it right now.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, if he can do what he did last year, yeah, I'll give you that. You know,
Dude,
the sky's the limit with
he
this
had
guy.
games last year that he was throwing 3 to 4 touchdowns a game.
I know.
That's lovely for fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, I had Wentz in one of my leagues. I lost in the playoffs because he went down. You know, but he carried me into the playoffs. What's up?
Wentz did.
Yeah. What's so funny? What are you looking at? Porn over there?
Lovely. It's lovely for fantasy.
Lovely for fantasy.
I wasn't going to say anything, but you called me out on it.
All right. Yeah, no, Carson Wentz, man, he was getting me 30 points a game. You know, and that's crazy good for fantasy quarterbacks. 30 points a game,
Yep.
guaranteed, because he ran the ball. He would score rushing touchdowns, but he would, like you were saying, he was throwing 3 or 4 touchdowns a game. He was catapulting me in a league where I really shouldn't have been in the playoffs, but I made it
Yeah.
because of him.
Plus, their team is stacked.
Yeah.
They got a fantastic roster.
Yeah,
Like
no.
he's got everything.
They pretty much bring the same team back that
Yeah.
won the Super Bowl.
Well, and that's the biggest thing is
Well, offensively, I should say.
they bring, offensively, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
I gotta say too.
But this is a
not-
situation where the offensive coordinator isn't going to come in and try to change anything.
Right.
You know, he's going to learn their playbook. He's going to learn how they work, and he's going to go along with it. He's going to add his little details here and there.
Well, if he's smart, he is. You
Yeah,
know?
but yeah, for anybody, for them to hire an offensive coordinator and not already have that agreement, like, hey, we're doing pretty good. Come in and try to maintain course.
Yeah, when you win the Super Bowl, you don't change a damn thing.
Right.
You come in and you do the exact same thing you did the year before. Because
true.
obviously it worked.
Right now, they lose. They had Torrey Smith last season.
Yeah, he's
and-
a scrub though.
Yeah, he really, he didn't
Well,
do anything.
he didn't do much because Alshon Jeffrey did so well. He had 120 targets. Nelson Aguilar, 95 targets. He had 8 touchdowns out of the slot last season. That was the most out of the slot by
Impressive.
any receiver.
He definitely stepped up. And then, I think Ajayi is, going to help out Wentz as well, because I think that he can catch the ball in the backfield.
I
do
don't
some
love
good work.
I don't love Ajayi, but I think he's going to do enough to be valuable.
Does he not have a good chin?
No, that's only in quarterbacks.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I still think Ajayi's going to put up 1,000 yards. I still think he's going to have a good season. I still think he'll really help out the quarterback situation. He's just not top tier talent, but he'll be good enough to get you 10, 15 points a game, help out Wentz. I think there's just a great team over there. I love everything in Philadelphia, and I gotta say that Super Bowl was probably one of the best games I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, really?
That game was ridiculous.
I should probably start watching Super Bowls more often.
Did you watch Atlanta, New England?
Okay, that game was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
come on. That takes the cake as far as #1 Super Bowls of all time.
course I missed it.
I saw it. You saw that, right?
Dude,
Did you see it?
Nick Foles caught a touchdown last year.
No,
Real quick,
actually.
Did you see it, Mark?
No, I didn't.
What were you
actually.
doing instead of watching Atlanta
was-
versus New England?
I was at the movies watching La La Land with my girlfriend.
You were watching La La
Okay,
Land.
so
he was watching La La Land.
I recommend stop listening to this podcast right now and go to one of those other terrible websites.
Listen, can I tell you something? For 2 years, I've been looking for an outlet to get that information out to the masses, and I found it. I actually started this website. We started this. I suggested this podcast. We bought all this equipment. We booked the studio. All this work went into. The only reason was to let everybody know that you, instead of watching the Super Bowl, were watching La La Land.
La La Land. And fuck you both, because it's a great movie.
It was a great movie, but it was also playing the day before and the day after.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on from Carson Wentz.
I won't move on, but
from La La Land.
we'll move on the list.
All right, so number 2, which I always like this guy. I think he's, fantasy-wise, he's always been great. Russell Wilson.
#1 in points last season.
Yeah, first time. And, he did it with a terrible offensive line and no running game.
Yeah, and again, outrushed his running backs. He had no running backs. Last season, they kind of refused to commit to any running back. They didn't really give anybody a chance.
Yep.
They didn't have a lot of depth to work with. They didn't have a lot of talent to work with, but they really didn't give any of their running backs the opportunity to kind of get into a groove and
Well,
prove
they kept
that
getting injured, too,
but that's not true though.
J.D. McKensick got injured.
they
Rawls
were-
got injured.
They were healthy scratching these players last season.
You mean Eddie Lacy?
Yes, they healthy scratched Eddie Lacy
Oy.
and Rawls. I think 2 or 3 weeks last season.
Yeah.
They were healthy scratches. I know it came off because they were out. You saw that on your roster that they were out, but they were healthy scratches if you look into it. That's the thing is they weren't that concerned about it. They know Russell Wilson has wheels. He can take off if he has to. They trust him obviously enough, and it worked. It worked.
Now, let me ask you guys. So, what do you think the loss of Jimmy Graham is going to be for him?
Huge.
Huge?
I mean, what was it, 10 touchdowns last year?
10 touchdowns last season which
That's my only concern. You know, you take out all when you're doing these stats, you take out all the biases, you take out all the injury, all the other, stuff like that, and you look at based on, them performing at all capabilities. But you take somebody like Jimmy Graham out of the equation, and it's huge, because they didn't really replace Jimmy Graham with anybody.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of who they have left on the roster too. Obviously, I mean Baldwin is obviously a beast. Like he's a great player, but Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, like that guy didn't look good when he was playing for the
New York,
Jets.
yeah.
He looked like he was 34. Yeah,
I mean, like the rest of the team too. Lockett, Lockett's kind of interesting, but he hasn't shown us anything.
Right.
I'm just not. They got one good receiver, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, but the thing is Russell Wilson does it. Like he did it last year with no offensive line, no running game, and he puts up points. So it's hard to argue with his ability to make these guys better.
It's true.
Maybe he made Graham what Graham was as far as touchdown wise. For me, Russell Wilson is going way too early in drafts from what I've seen. And again, he's not somebody similar to Cam Newton, where I can't watch that. I can't watch him running around because I think he's going to get hurt at any moment, and I don't want to watch my quarterback run for his life on every play.
Yep.
I need to see somebody who's throwing the ball, down the field and getting me points.
just a quick fact: Jimmy Graham was tied with the second most receiving touchdowns last season with 10. But he only had 520 yards, which was his lowest total since his rookie season in 2010.
Yeah, he was a touchdown machine.
Absolutely.
That was
but
it.
520 yards was his lowest total amount since his rookie season. But
And they replaced Graham with Ed Dixon.
Right.
Ed Dixon, back up to Greg Olson in Carolina for so many years. I think Ed Dixon was maybe in Baltimore last year. I don't know. But, he's not a Jimmy Graham.
No. No, he's not that player, man.
But
if he was, he would have been that player from the get-go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dixon's one of those guys where he's like, he catches 50 yards in a touchdown, and you go, who is that guy?
Well, maybe that's the reason why. Maybe that's the reason why you should target Lockett this year. Like, maybe the receivers are going to step up.
Yeah, I'll give you that. He's
Lockett's
definitely a sneaky play.
Lockett's
Sure.
proven that he is a talent. But
But not a fantasy talent, right?
No,
he's a football
not,
talent.
The thing is with fantasy, like he's not consistent, so you can't
Right.
rely on him.
Exactly.
But with Jimmy Graham's 10 touchdowns leaving Seattle, Lockett is a good guy to look for. Get him late round and sit on him and see if he actually, picks up some of where Jimmy Graham left off.
All right, so with Lockett, like I was saying, you don't really have to even draft him. You can watch him week 1, week 2, and then pick him up.
I think Lockett will go late round, though.
Yeah?
I do. I think the hype that Russell Wilson's getting this offseason, the fact that he finished number 1 last season, he's in the top 3 in most people's projections for 2018. I think Lockett's going late round. Again, I wouldn't. He's not a guy I would reach for, but he could be a good flex player. He could be a good plug and play in bye weeks. So definitely somebody to keep an eye on.
All right, so Russell Wilson, number 2 on our projected QBs.
And the moment everybody has been waiting for, number 1, Marcus Mariota. Just kidding. It's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't just have Aaron Rodgers being the number 1 guy. I have him 30 points above Russell Wilson. That's how much of a monster year I think Rodgers is going to have.
Rodgers is going to fucking destroy the league this year.
Yeah.
He is going to blow up the league. They're going to win the Super Bowl. I love him.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking 2 more fantasy points a week over Russell Wilson, which is huge. I mean, that's definitely wins, wins all season in fantasy.
Now, here's the question. I know Aaron Rodgers likes to spread the ball out, but with the departure of Jordy Nelson, does that hurt him?
No.
Not at all.
I think that he's the one that made Jordy Nelson. He's such a good quarterback. Like there's only a few quarterbacks. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning was like that. No matter who you plugged in there, those guys made them better.
But the one thing that concerns me, I completely agree with him being number 1. The one thing that does concern me is they lost Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson, obviously a beast. He's obviously older and slowing down in his career and a little bit more injury prone, but they didn't replace him. So they've got Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb. They're not really projecting Randall Cobb to do a whole lot better than he did last season. Mm-hmm. And then you got Geronimo Allison, who has shown to be kind of the surprise, definitely not consistent, not worthy of having on your roster in most leagues, but a player that can put up 2-3 touchdowns and 150 yards in a game if Aaron Rodgers decides that Allison is the hot hand. And that's kind of the way Rodgers kind of plays is week to week, it can be somebody else.
Right. And well, the thing is, they didn't replace a wide receiver. They added a tight end receiver.
Sure.
They added Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
So those eight touchdowns in Seattle are now in Green Bay.
Right, but his 520 yards last season, he's obviously going to be a touchdown magnet. He's going to be a killer in the red zone. But 520 yards last season, obviously his lowest. But we're looking at yardage. Jordy Nelson had a lot of yards. Has racked up a lot of yards with Aaron Rodgers over the years. So I honestly think that Randall Cobb, we've seen him being capable of, big performances and fantasy-worthy performances on a regular basis. Devonta Adams obviously going to be a stud this year. Hopefully Randall Cobb steps up. I think he will. Geronimo Allison's going to have his weeks where he shines. But, yeah, that's the big one. Jimmy Graham and brings his 10 touchdowns from 2017 into Green Bay, and that's going to be a huge, huge help for Rodgers.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, Randall Cobb is a great player. He's had a couple of really good seasons where he's just blown up the boards. Like, I think he's had, multiple 10, 15, 20-point games when he's catching multiple touchdowns. Like,
right.
He's a great player.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's your difference for Jordy Nelson.
And I mean, and he's
Cobb
been
and Graham.
Yeah, and he's been the number 3 player for like the last 2 or 3 seasons, and now he's the number 2 player. Like, I can see Randall Cobb being, a top 30 receiver this year.
And that's my philosophy when I'm drafting is I look for players on pass happy teams, and Green Bay is pass happy. They always are. So I would take a number 2 wide receiver on a pass happy team over a number 1 wide receiver on a run first team.
Correct. Yeah.
For fantasy wise. So when I'm drafting, I look at stuff like that, and if you can get Cobb really late, which you can because nobody's really talking about him, he might be the difference for you.
And not to beat a dead horse, but is that the saying? Beat a dead horse?
Yes.
It sounds weird coming out of my mouth.
That is the saying, by the way, and yes, it is a weird saying.
PETA? You're gonna call PETA?
You're gonna call PETA on him?
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's pronounced.
You have their
PETA.
number on speed dial?
I'm gonna call PETA from.
Did you get that from TMZ? Is that
Mockingjay.
where you got PETA's phone number from?
But not to beat a dead horse, but Aaron Rodgers, great chin.
Oh yeah, the best, I think.
The best chin.
I think the best chin, yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers this year. My only thing about Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't mind taking him early, but not reaching for him.
Now,
What's reaching for him?
Reaching for him would be second round,
Where are you drafting him?
even third round.
Where are you drafting him?
I mean, he's going second and third round. If I take Aaron Rodgers, it's because I got him in the 4th round.
yeah.
And I've already got, stud running backs or a stud wide receiver, and it makes sense because I'm getting value for him in the draft. That's the only way. And I'm talking 4th round or later.
Okay, but have you seen Aaron Rodgers' weekly fantasy output? The
Yeah.
guy consistently puts up 25 plus points. He's got multiple games with 35, 40 plus points in a game. Like, that's a receiver, that's a quarterback and a receiver, or quarterback and a running back in one spot right there.
It is.
Like, he's worth it. If he's hot, he's worth it.
He is worth it, but like I said, my philosophy with drafts is that I need to fill the spots on the roster with a better wide receiver, a better running back.
If we're in a 12-person PPR league and the draft is funny for me and I see him there available in the 3rd round, I'm picking him up for sure.
Yeah, I don't blame you because you're going to get value. I mean, you're going to get a lot of value. He's going to win you, 4 or 5 games in a season and catapult you to the playoffs.
So I agree not taking Rodgers before the 4th round. My concern with Rodgers, 34 years old, coming off of a clavicle fracture, that's the shoulder.
Right.
So how much is a shoulder injury that put him out for the rest of the season? I know it came back that one game late season.
Right.
But 34 years old with a shoulder injury, as the season progresses, does it start to tighten up? Does it start to get sore? Does he start to kind of taper off towards the end of the season? I still like him at our number 1 position. I don't take him before the 4th round. If he's there in the 4th round, I'll go for him. But I'm definitely not taking him before that because I feel like his ceiling is as high as we put it,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like his floor is lower than most people are expecting.
Yeah, I agree.
So
The thing about his injury, just like a lot of the injuries nowadays, these guys have such great medical staff.
no, absolutely.
and their ability to come back from injuries and play through pain and do all these things. I mean, quarterbacks now you see Brady at a high level at 40. Normally that's not the case. They start tapering off. So
Sure.
34 with an injury, it's just his schedule and his offensive coordinator is just, he's going to have a monster year. It's just everything is a green light for me on Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, if I can get him in the 4th round, done.
If I can get him in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, I'm as happy as can be. The guy,
You would take him in the 3rd round?
I take him in the 3rd round. It's totally situational.
Sure.
Sure.
If there's a really nice running back or a really nice receiver that I really like, yes, I'm going wide receiver or running back.
Well,
But-
here's what I know: the only time you're going to take him before the 3rd round is in a 2 QB league. He's probably going number 1.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's really where you. Otherwise, if you're in a 10 team, 12 team, 1 quarterback, yeah,
No way in a 10 team am I taking him before the 3rd round.
right,
No way.
yeah. I mean, there's some 10 teams. You've got so many more players you can grab that you don't have to worry about a quarterback that early.
Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps up the top 10 projected QB fantasy of 2018. Be sure to get onto fantasylifenetwork.com, check out all of our rankings and projections for every position. You can also see who didn't make it outside the top 10. We're going to talk about just a couple of them right now. Honorable mentions, just sliding outside the top 10. First overall, I want to talk about Drew Brees coming in at number 12. Last season was a down season for him, obviously with the success of Ingram and Kamara. He threw 23 touchdowns, which was his lowest total touchdowns since he was with the Chargers in 2002. He obviously has a better season this year than last, but because of that, we put him outside the top 10.
Trends don't lie, man. Trends don't lie. And, New Orleans showed last year they wanted to be a run-first team. And so they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to surprise me though if we see him in the top 10 though at the end of the year.
You guys hear Wonder Woman for some reason? It's strange. I hear Wonder Woman. Is that a thing?
I think you're just hearing things.
You think I'm hearing things? Okay, good. Yeah, so Drew Brees, it's for me, he has to show it. He's 39. This is what I'm talking about. This is the what you're talking about where quarterbacks get up there in age, they start to, slow down like Peyton Manning did at the end of his career. So that Drew Brees for me, he's where he's at because of last year, because they want to run the ball. I don't think their schedule is very favorable, and I think that because of his age, they want to take some of that pressure off of him and run Kamara, run Ingram.
Right. Now, second quarterback I want to talk about, we got him at number 18, Jimmy Garoppolo. He's at number 18 because we have to go with the data. We
Sure.
have to go with facts and data and numbers and plug all that into our system and put him at number 18. This might be the only one I disagree with because I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, but it's a roll of the dice. He might not, but based on what he was able to do the last 6 games of last season, they don't have a ton of offensive weapons, but Jimmy Garoppolo is a player to watch, QB to watch. If you're in a 2 QB league, he's a guy to get hands down because you can get him for a steal. And also, if you're a quarterback, if you don't get a quarterback in the 4th or 5th round and you drop down, you get somebody that you're not too sure about. Maybe you get somebody outside the top 10. Garoppolo is a good backup to have just in case he does go off.
There's just there's no super sexy receiver in San Francisco.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to get to, was the fact that who's he going to throw to? Garcon, can't stay healthy. Goodwin, what's Goodwin done? They got Pettis in the draft, but he's unproven. They don't have a tight end. They're Shanahan, right? Shanahan had Julio Jones the whole time in Atlanta. So Matt Ryan could throw to Julio. He had a number 1 guy. So those stats that Shanahan produced in Atlanta was with better players. And San Francisco doesn't have a Julio Jones. They don't have, guys that I think can help Jimmy G produce at fantasy level, where 18 to me is, I think, high. Because I'm just unsure. Jimmy G, yeah, he's sexy. He's got a good chin. Can he actually put up the numbers, though, with that wide receiving core?
Right, and that's a big question mark. Now, on FantasyLifeNetwork.com, we did write an article about the San Francisco 49ers because they are a big question mark in 2018, but it makes a case for why we think that they could actually have a winning season and be contenders for the playoffs and also be good for your fantasy team. So check that out at FantasyLifeNetwork.com. Now, real quick, we're going to run through a couple this or that. We're going to go through who would you take, this player or that player. First off, would you take Case Keenum in Denver or Dak Prescott?
Keenum.
Dak.
And I would take Keenum because he has better wide receivers. Who is Dak going to throw to?
Allen Hurns.
That's it?
Allen Hurns is he's number
know
one
what
on
I
the
mean?
depth chart, and I would probably take Prescott over Keenum only because
He's been in the system longer.
he's
He's been in the system. He's got a rapport with his other receivers. He knows the playbook. Keenum's coming in. He doesn't know anything.
All right, well.
and
all right.
obviously Zeke is going to be a massive star in 2018. He's going to take a lot of pressure off of Prescott, but also, as far as the receiving back goes, he can definitely catch balls out of the flat.
Yep, true.
All right.
All right, who else you got?
All right.
I'll be odd man out on that one.
All right. So, would you take Mitchell Trubisky or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Jimmy G.
Mitchell Trubisky. And the reason I would take him is that Chicago has the number 2 best schedule against defenses who are terrible against the pass.
Right. That's why Trubisky gets the edge. I think Garoppolo and Trubisky are actually going to finish quite similar in this season. We have them ranked 18 and 19. I think their finishes are probably going to be, at least their completion rate, their passing yards and touchdowns, I think are going to be quite similar.
Yeah, I think the
but
difference.
I go Garoppolo because I want to root for Garoppolo.
Oy.
I want to root for that guy. I want to watch him grow, and I want to see him put up crazy numbers.
Me too. Plus, he hooks up with porn stars.
He does. That's right. He was dating a porn star.
Is that true?
Yeah.
You see the article?
You didn't see it?
He was like walking in a restaurant with a porn star.
With the porn star.
All right, so next week's podcast is going to be about Jimmy Garoppolo and his dating life. I'm
Can't
all right
wait.
with that. We'll do some research. We'll look into it, try to get pictures to post.
Yeah, man. That should be a fun episode.
All right, that makes me like Garoppolo even more. Actually, it kind of depends on
All
which
right, so
one it is.
what did you say, Ant? Did you say Jimmy G?
Jimmy G.
Yeah.
I mean, I like
Odd man out
Chicago's.
again.
I like Chicago's weapons a bit better, but I think Jimmy G is a better quarterback.
All right, real quick, the difference that I think between those two and why Trubisky's going to have a better year is because Trubisky can run better than Jimmy G. So he's going to have more yards rushing, and he's going to score more touchdowns.
Do you think that's
on the
because he learned how to run from Tom Brady?
Yes.
ground. Which we've established. He's terrible. So
Okay, last one. Sinking down our list, number 25 and 26. Would you take Eli Manning or Derek Carr?
Wow, that is tough.
yeah, that's actually a really
Now,
good one.
Eli Manning, you got Beckham coming back. You got Sterling Shepard poised for a big year.
But Ingram was a beast.
Ingram, who's a beast. Now we're looking at Derek Carr. You got Jordy Nelson there this year.
That's tough.
Yeah.
And I actually think Carr is a great player too. I mean, he had a terrible season last season, but the season before that, 2016, he had a great season.
Yeah, true. So he's proven he can do it. But I'm going to go with Manning. I'm going to go with Manning because of his weapons. I think the offensive line is better, and I think that the system that they're in is better because Oakland runs a West Coast offense, which is a lot of short passes. A lot of short passes to the running back, short passes to the tight end, over the middle wide receivers. So for fantasy-wise, I got to go with Manning.
Okay, my thing is I'm going with Carr just because Eli Manning has let me down too many times before, and I just can't take any more letdowns. So fuck him.
Last season, Eli Manning's pass catchers dropped 43 passes,
Yeah,
which was
is
the
huge.
most in the NFL.
Huge.
I'm going with Derek Carr. I think there's more of an upside there. Eli Manning, to me, just watching him throughout the first 6 weeks of the football season, he looks like he hasn't woke up yet. He looks like he rolled out of bed, put on his uniform, stepped on the field. He doesn't look excited. He doesn't look like a quarterback who's trying to get into the playoffs. He looks lackadaisical, and Derek Carr's I feel like he's got more upside.
But Eli Manning has 2 more Super Bowls than Derek Carr,
agree.
looking that way.
Yeah, no. But again, at the end of season, he starts to wake up, and that's when it starts to be kind of exciting Giants football.
Right, but then the fantasy playoffs are over, and it doesn't matter.
Right. So I do take Derek Carr over Eli Manning.
All right, so I'm over 3 in my picks. I like it. I'm gonna have to do a
But yeah,
better
be
job
sure to get
convincing.
on to fantasylifenetwork.com. Check out all our projections and rankings. I think that about wraps us up for this week. Check in though next week. We're going to be releasing mock drafts as well. If you guys don't have time to do mock drafts, we do 10, 15 a week. We record a few of them a week, and we're going to be posting them. That way you guys can listen and see where everybody's going.
Yeah, a lot of fun, real quick, good information. It's really good prep work for helping people with their draft for sure.
All right, so that about does it for us. Thanks for listening, guys, and see you guys next week.